how to make my sticky toffee cake with homemade sticky toffee sauce and sticky toffee buttercream. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, where today I'm making the cake version of my favourite pudding in the world, which you have already seen on this channel, which is the sticky toffee pudding, but I'm going to be making my sticky toffee cake. So it's combining all of the best bits of a sticky toffee pudding with a cake, with homemade sticky toffee sauce, buttercream, and everything you can sort of need and want in a sticky toffee bake. And this is how you start it. When you're making sticky toffee cake, you have to use dates because that is how you get the perfect sticky toffee flavour. Whether you use medjool dates, ordinary dates, pre-chopped dates, you just want to make sure you cut out the insides and then you can chop them up nice and fine to start making the pureed sticky toffee. Even if you don't like dates, in this cake they're pureed to a fine mixture so you don't get any lumps of dates in there, and honestly it is worth it for that intense flavour goodness. So I have my chopped dates here, some boiling water and some bicarb, and you essentially have to put them all together in a bowl, leave to sit for 10 minutes and then puree until smooth. Once this mixture is sat for 10 minutes, your dates will be so much softer, and then you have to blend them until smooth. A food processor works, a NutriBullet, anything like that. You just want to really blend it down, and then you can use it in the cake mix in a minute. Once your date mixture has been pureed until smooth, you can grab the rest of your cake ingredients because you want to make sure that's cooled first. So once you're ready, you can grab your butter or your baking spread. For a sponge mix, I tend to always use a baking spread just because it's cheaper to buy, it creams into the sugar easier, and it's just better really. And then I tend to use, for my sticky toffee bakes, dark brown soft sugar because I love the flavour that it brings in. You can of course use light brown sugar if that's all you've got, or you prefer slightly lighter flavour, but it's dark brown sugar for me every single time. And then of course you have some eggs, self-raising flour, and some black treacle. This is notoriously hard to get out of the tin. It's a sticky mess, but again, it's worth it. But if you want to substitute for golden syrup, you can, or do a little bit of both. Either way, you just want the weight to be the same. And of course, a little bit of vanilla. And then all you've got to do is mix them all together until smooth, pour into the tin, and then bake. So whenever I use my mixer, obviously it does a lot of the work for me. I love my stand mixer, I'm not gonna lie. It's my other half, it's my favorite thing. But if you don't have one, or you have to use basically an electric hand mixer, they all work perfectly the same. If you use an electric hand mixer, use the double beaters and just mix the ingredients in slightly slower, just to make sure everything's really incorporated. And if you're doing it by hand, do the same. Just use a spatula without the egg attached, just to mix it, and then just, make sure everything's all nice and smooth each time you add something in. And then you can add in basically the more fun bits, the sticky mess, the treacle. So once your cake mix is ready, it's going to be lovely and thick and just perfect, ready to go. But obviously make sure that your oven is preheated. I always bake in a fan oven, so I always use 160 degrees, but if it's a conventional oven, it's 180. But if you're unsure, make sure to get an oven thermometer, because even if you think your oven is correct, sometimes the temperature can be way off and you don't want to waste a good cake sponge. So I've also pre-lined my tins. These are just 8-inch loose bottom tins. They work perfectly for this cake. Just shove the cake mix in between the two and then bake in your oven for about 35 to 40 minutes. And then once, a skewer comes out clean, leave it to cool for about 10 minutes in the tin and then onto a wire rack fully. And now they're ready to bake. So whilst your cakes are in the oven, it's the perfect time to make your homemade sticky toffee sauce. And of course, if you don't want to make the sauce, you can just buy supermarket toffee sauce. I don't judge, it's much easier. But as you can see, this sauce is only 4 simple ingredients. Again, I'm using dark brown sugar and black treacle. But of course, light brown sugar and golden syrup do substitute again for a lighter coloured sauce. And then this is when you need to use actual unsalted butter and not a baking spread. This will melt down into the sauce and help create a thick and glossy, delicious flavour. And if you use a baking spread, it might basically split and become oily, which nobody wants. And then of course, some double cream. Double cream is important because of the fat content will help create a thick, lovely, luxurious sauce that you're after. If you use a single cream or whipping cream, it might be a bit thin and runny, so just bear that in mind. But either way, all we've got to do is add all the ingredients to the pan, let the butter melt down on a lower heat, and then boil it for 1 minute and turn it off, and you have your sticky toffee sauce. So once your sticky toffee sauce is made, it'll be quite runny at this point and very hot. So you need to make sure to let it cool fully, which is why I make it when the sponges are baking, as both things need to cool, be nice and ready to sort of decorate. So once your sponges are made, make sure to cool them fully on a wire rack and make sure your sticky toffee sauce is nice and cool as well, so we can make the best buttercream frosting ever. So now everything has cooled. I have my cooled sponges, I have my lovely and cool homemade sticky toffee sauce, which is just luxurious, and I'd kind of want to eat all of it by myself, but I need some for my buttercream. So I've got some unsalted butter. As always with buttercream, I use block butter. Actually, I'm just gonna get one to show you exactly what they look like. And this is sort of what I mean. It's very important to realize that block butter is the one wrapped in foil. It's so solid when it comes out of the fridge. And to make the perfect buttercream, you need to use this, but make it at room temperature before you start mixing. Whether you just leave it on the side overnight, heat it ever so slightly in the microwave, or use a heated mixer, you need to use block butter for the best frosting ever. And then I have some icing sugar, like always, and we're just gonna mix some of those together, make the perfect sticky toffee buttercream frosting, add a little drizzle, add some little sprinkles and some fudge chunks, and then you have one of my favorite cakes ever. So once your buttercream is ready, it's time to decorate. And of course, with a 2-layer cake like this, you can decorate it however you want. I tend to get my favorite piping tip, as always, which is a 2D closed style piping tip. I'll link it in the description box below, of course. But I tend to grab this with a large piping bag because it's easier to pipe and decorate this way. But of course you can just whack half the frosting on, slather it on however you want, and swirl through some sauce. It's entirely up to you. I just want to make sure you have fun with it and enjoy decorating the cake, because at the end of the day, taste is most important, but decorating is a bit of fun. And that is how you make my favorite sticky toffee cake. It's just everything you want in a cake, my favorite pudding, all in one, everything homemade, and I love it. So make sure to check out the full recipe in the description box below. All of my tips are on the blog post as well, but any questions, leave them below as well. But make sure you enjoy one of my favorite cakes ever.